talked yesterday about truly selfless acts and how I found them particularly fascinating and maybe particularly impactful. No surprise there, but that, if they exist, if people can make truly selfless acts, that they probably have the greatest impact and greatest benefit to society. So I wanted to delve in on that a little bit and use a specific example to kind of work through it and flesh it out. So the example I want to use is Milton Friedman, really famous economist from the 70s and prior. I've been watching some of his videos lately, and he hits a number of items or topics, characteristics that I think play into this whole selfless act. And this idea which I spoke about, which is, the true selfless acts are the ones obviously that bring us no benefit and they just help other people. But it's a step further than that. It's a step where you're almost incentivized to not do it. It's not just that it doesn't benefit you, it seemingly almost hurts you. It's almost as if all logic dictates you should do the opposite of that selfless act. So let's talk about Milton Friedman a little bit and what I mean by that. So let me start by saying, I'm not an expert on him by any means and his policies, and I haven't watched all his videos or read all his books or anything like that. So it's somewhat of a preliminary view. So it's more of a thought exercise, but I think it works. He's obviously a brilliant person who's super knowledgeable about economics as well as other topics, super articulate, sharp, all those things. I can't really speak to his character, although it seems like, his intent was good, seems. So all that being said, I've watched a few of his videos where he would give lectures at universities and different places, and then students would ask questions. And inevitably, if you know anything about Milton Friedman, he's very much about free market. He's a libertarian. Capitalism, he believes, is seemingly the best system. So he would get a lot of questions from people that have more socialistic views, asking about welfare and poverty and, colonization and how all those things hurt or bad for society, kind of the counter to the capitalistic argument to some extent. And the reason I think he's such a good example is when you watch those videos, right, you see people, often students or younger individuals, asking these questions about, what's the government's responsibility for the poor? What should they be doing there? I get capitalism works in a lot of ways, but it seems to leave a lot of people out. And what do we do about that? And his response, at least for the sample that I've watched, always falls into this category of it's almost the superpower that I've spoken of. His knowledge of economics, his knowledge and depth of the data and the research is so great that his responses seem to be almost always categorical, certain to an extent, as to why capitalism is still the right system, and as to why the question being asked is flawed in some way, or the person just doesn't understand the data and the research. And there's a clear answer as to why what Milton Friedman is proposing is right, in spite of what the question the person's asking. And don't get me wrong, as you listen to it, it is logical, not just little l, but to a degree, big L logical, to a degree. I don't have all the research, but he seems to, and he speaks to it very effectively. And I don't think he's being necessarily malicious in any way. I think he is truly saying what he believes, and what he believes the data and the research shows. So why am I saying all this? Well, again, I feel like this is the perfect category where that selfless act, it's an example, right? It's a representative example, but could make such a difference. You think about what Milton Friedman's incentivized to do, right? So he believes in capitalism for whatever reasons. He's done a lot of research. The research clearly supports it, at least in his mind, that it's the right approach and it's the right way to do it. I'm simplifying things here, but in the case of poverty, his argument was more or less that it's government programs that actually fuel poverty and keep people oppressed and hurt, black communities and different communities, right? The government regulation is the problem. You would think we should have more government, we need more programs, more spending, but he's saying that's actually the problem, right? So he has data and research that he says supports that. He's very convinced in his own mind that this is true. You can even go a step further. It wasn't the days of social media then, but he had, and you see it in the audiences, right? The applause, it's a very lively environment. People get very excited. People supported him. He had followers. He had people that really loved what he was saying. And, you know, you can look at that angle of it. And he was spinning such a cohesive narrative, and he is smart, and there was data behind it. That people, a lot of people, it's what they wanted to hear. So they became very emotionally charged around it. That gives you an incentive. That says, hey, there's people that like what I'm saying. And there's the combative nature of it. There's the fun, there's the competition, there's people challenging him, and he's able to kind of shoot them down. That feels good. You can't dismiss that. How good it felt for him, I can't say, but there's a degree of that. So you look at all this and it's lining up, right? He feels like he's on the right side. The data supports it. He's got these base of followers who are kind of cheering him on, and that feels good. He feels like he's doing right in the world, where these people are asking questions and he's schooling them and he's showing them the right way. All of it leads you to believe this is what I should be doing. This is the right approach, right? This is it. But that's the moment. That's the moment where if you could do the hard thing, if you could step back, if you can look at it and say, everything about this situation tells me I should go forward the way I'm going forward. But what if? What if I could make much more of a difference and have a bigger impact if I was able to step back and do the hard thing? If I was to try and truly empathize with these people and understand what they're saying, that doesn't mean dismissing and ignoring the data. It doesn't mean not being logical and going towards the right answer. It means truly entertaining the idea, having the humility and the mental toughness to say, you know what, everything tells me the answer is A, everything. But I'm gonna explore B, and I'm gonna really explore it, and I'm gonna hear what you're saying, and I'm gonna look at this from a different perspective, not just the numbers and the economics. I'm gonna really try and understand what it means for people who are poor, and what role government should play in that, and look at it from that other side. Genuinely, I'm gonna ask the question. I'm not even gonna wait for you to ask it. I'm gonna ask it. I'm gonna explore it. I'm gonna make pretend, maybe, what if the data's wrong? What if it's incomplete? What if we don't have the whole picture yet? What if Milton Friedman did that? What type of impact could that have had in terms of bringing people together towards an ultimate solution or an objective or an end that maybe helps more people? What if he used that superpower and that unbelievable knowledge he had and the data set he had, but added with it the humility to say, maybe there's a different way. Let me not just focus on shooting that down. Let me not just focus on everything my instinct tells me is right and I'm incentivized to do. Let me do the hard, selfless thing that feels totally counter and against everything I feel like I should do. Because maybe in the big picture, there's more to be gained from that. That higher level view, that longer term view, maybe there's more to be had.